Yeah, like I found somewhere by a river off the road and stuff. And I set up my little bivvy. Usually I make like a little makeshift den out of a tarp and my bike, so it's sort of shelter from the rain. But it was going to be a clear night. It was warm, it was lovely, so I didn't. And I remember wriggling into my sleeping bag, into my bivvy, ready to go to sleep. And so, for context, prior to this trip, I had been researching it, and I always research the wildlife because I love wildlife and I like to, know what's out there. And I'd read about the well-established wolf population, and it just popped into my head. I didn't sleep a wink that night.
Welcome to Seek Travel Ride, where we share the stories and experiences of people taking amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello listeners, it's Bella Malloy here and it's time for another exciting episode of Seek Travel Ride. My guest today is someone who I think really embodies that awesome spirit of taking a bike adventure. Ceri Belshaw is a passionate gravel cyclist and bikepacker who's enjoyed carving out her own path across some of the most rugged and beautiful off-road routes in Wales, Scotland, the French Alps, Morocco and so much further afield. Ceri's also all about spreading the stoke, which is gravel riding and bike travel, and when she's not tackling steep climbs or scouting out new trails, you can find her working hard on her upcoming book, Gravel Rides Wales, which means you'll often find her deep in the Welsh countryside, piecing together routes that blend challenge, scenery, and the joy of riding through some of the dreamiest landscapes on offer. She's also a core part of the Areri Gravel Club, helping to grow community around gravel riding and adventure cycling. Add to that a love of photography, particularly landscapes, wildlife and insects, and a hands-on approach to cycling, including building up her own bike from the frame up. And you start to get a picture of just how multi-layered Ceri's bike adventures are. What I especially love about Ceri is her enthusiasm for being out there in the outdoors on her bike. Or sometimes that might be hiking outdoors with her bike, as she isn't at all put off by a hiker bike trail. For her, that just adds to the adventure. She's super content to be camping at a Scottish bothy, isn't put off by inclement weather, and is definitely someone curious enough to take the cut-up trails to see what's on the other side. Listeners, I cannot wait to dig into her story and share her adventures with you. Ceri Belshaw, a big warm welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bella. Thank you so much. That was quite an introduction. But thank you for having me. It's a real honour to be on this podcast with you.
Oh, I can't wait to dig into your stories, Ceri, because as my intro pointed to, I feel like you've actually done quite a lot and there's so much that we can get into, and I can't wait to see how you've really evolved with your bikepacking journey as well. But before we dig into all the questions I have, there's a question I start my show with and I ask it to all my guests, and that is, Ceri Belshaw, do you remember the very first bike you ever rode?
I do. And this is a core memory of mine. I cannot remember anything before it, bike related. But I remember, I think I must have been about 5 years old. And it was back home where I lived in Anglesey, North Wales. And it was my dad and I had my, like a little purple bike with little tassels on the handlebars. And I think he must have just removed the stabilizers. And I would sit on the bike at the top of this slope. To me at the time, it was a very big hill, like a grassy slope. And he would just push me down it constantly until I finally managed to just ride my bike without falling off it. It took quite a few goes. But yeah, eventually I got the hang of it. So yeah, that was my first ever bike memory many moons ago.
I just put myself in your position there, and inside, I can just hear you going, wee!
And ouch as well. I love ouch.
But kids bounce, or I feel like kids bounce.
Yeah.
Some of the crashes that kids have would like see me off a bike forever, and they're like, oh yeah, whatever, we've got this. But the other thing I love about that, Ceri, is like you learn on like a grassy hill, and it's like that off-road thing has really stuck with you, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad it was a grassy hill because it's quite a soft landing. So yeah, very thankful for that. It's a lovely memory to have, yeah. From then, I think I always had a bike. Yeah, that was it, really.
Did you ride bikes a lot then growing up?
Well, I always had one, but I think I used it more as kind of like a mode of transport. I'd have one as like a kid just for like knocking around on, in the fields and things and on our quiet country lanes. But yeah, growing up, getting older was definitely a mode of transport for me. I didn't learn to drive until I was 25.
Oh, me too. Oh my gosh.
Oh, cool. So it was really important. I needed to get around, quickly. So yeah, always had a bike, but I didn't realize how much I loved it. Oh, it didn't really become, a really staple part of my life until I think 2015 when I moved back to Wales after living in the cities and things.
Did you move back to like the countryside in Wales?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So just before that, I was in Brighton just for a year or so and decided to move back to North Wales so I could buy a house up here and things. And I moved back in with my parents at the time, which helped me save up for a deposit for a house. And I was really thankful for that. And I started fell running. So yeah, I did a lot of that with my dad. Biking came as kind of a means of cross training.
So hang on, as an Aussie, there's a couple of terms that I have learnt speaking to people from the UK, and one of them is fell running, and one of them is the idea of like bagging a Munro. And I think a Munro is a Scottish thing.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Is that like a mountain that's over 1,000 metres?
Is it feet? I'm not entirely sure,
It has to be metres, surely, doesn't it? Because feet would be like 300 metres, or maybe it isn't. Oh, anyway, but fell running, when you say that, I think, is that like running off-road up and down mountains?
Yeah. I think they call it like sky running over in the States.
So you could bag Munros while you're fell running?
Yeah, if you're up in Scotland, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could combine the two.
I wonder how many Munros you've bagged on your bike, though, because bikepacking in Scotland is something you've also done.
Yeah, I do tend to drag my bike up with me, up hills and things and the odd mountain. Yeah, maybe a few.
But again, coming back to moving to Wales, so moving to Wales, obviously there's also the pull of being able to have your own place, but you've chosen to live in an area of extreme natural beauty as well. So the pull of the city was never something big for you, was it?
No, not at all. I mean, I enjoyed it while I was there growing up and I had, a great time. I met loads like some of my best friends. So I can't slate it at all. But I think, yeah, coming back to the countryside was always going to happen for me. I just love big, wide open spaces and, nature and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was lovely coming home. Came back full circle, really. And then, yeah, I really got into my outdoor sports when I did move back. And it's been a slippery slope ever since.
So cycling was something that you took up to get you fit for fell running or cross training, you were saying?
Yeah. So my dad gave me his old road bike. It was a Graham Way, which is built up in North Wales. I'd never ridden a road bike before. It was so weird. I'd always ridden like flat bar bikes. But I soon got the hang of it. And yeah, we'd just go cycling off around the lanes by where we lived. And, it was really, really hilly as well. My goodness, it was like really hard work. But I loved it. I loved that freedom. And like, gosh, you could just go so far on it, on a road bike. And, it was fun. It's quite zippy. And I think I just started doing it a little bit more and more. I was also struggling with my knee a few years into fell running. So again, I would find myself on the bike more because it was kinder on the knees. It was, less impactive, things like that. Eventually, my knee gave up the ghost.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, knee.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things. It's okay. I had good innings. But yeah, thankfully, I had my bike. So I just threw myself into that, really. So really definitely needed an outlet. Got quite a lot of energy. So yeah, threw myself into that. Yeah, really, I loved it. I was maybe borderline obsessive, actually. I just had to get out and ride my bike nearly every day.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we're kindred souls. But I'm a bit like that. So, but you were talking about road riding, and if I look back at what you've done in the last few years, Ceri, it really predominantly feels to me like it's more off-road trails and gravel. So how did that transition take place?
Okay, so I was on the road at first with my road bike. I had a job in an outdoor centre. I think maybe in 2017 I was there. I made some friends there, and they were predominantly mountain bikers. And I was curious, so I borrowed my dad's hardtail one evening, and we all went for a ride, and they kind of showed me the ropes. And I really loved it. It was so nice being off the road, and it was so fun as well. It was, it was techie, it was challenging. And then I just started doing more and more off-road riding. I was like scouring out routes on the map, in the local area and things, and just exploring. And I found I enjoyed it. I still love riding on quiet roads, mountain roads. I yeah, I love it much more being off the road. It's quieter, it's a bit wilder, and it's peaceful. There's no cars to dodge. So yeah, that's how that one started.
Got a bit out of control since then.
It has, yeah, definitely, definitely. But in a good way, in the best way. Yeah, so I started off after I kept borrowing my dad's hardtail, and he never got a chance to ride it. So eventually I bought my own. I bought like a full suspension bike and got into trail riding and things like that. And actually, my first bikepacking trip was around that time, not long after I bought that full suspension bike. That's the bike I used when I went on my first trip.
Where did you go on that first trip?
I went to Scotland.
Yay, Scotland. I love Scotland.
Yeah, Scotland's one of my favourite countries to ride around in. It is just wonderful. It's so vast, and they've got the right to roam up there as well, which is just amazing. So you can kind of go anywhere pretty much.
Wild camp and stuff.
Yeah, that was that's one of my favourite trips, maybe my favourite trip.
Whereabouts in Scotland? Was it on the west coast? Was it in the Highlands? Like, whereabouts exactly did you go?
I ended up on the west coast. I ended up on like the Outer Hebrides at one point. Started at Carrow, which it's famed for being the UK's most remote train station. You might know it from, I don't know if you've seen Trainspotting.
Oh, yeah. What an awesome film.
Yeah, right. So that train station is...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I thought, that's a cool place to start. So I was like, okay, we'll start from there. So I drove up to Tindrum. I got the train to Carrow with my bike. And then, I just got off there and I started my first ever trip, which was, it was quite eventful that first day. Well, not eventful, I would say. It was a tough day. I don't know really what I was expecting. I guess that's the beauty of it, isn't it? The unknown element of an adventure by bike. But yeah, I went for a lap around Loch Oshian, the lake by the train station, which is very, very pretty. And then I headed south towards Rannoch. And there's another little train station at Rannoch, and I stopped there for a little refuel. And then I took my bike and I over Rannoch Moor, which I had sort of researched a little bit before the trip, and I knew you could do it, but I knew it probably wasn't going to be rideable. And it wasn't rideable at all. You basically follow these telegraph poles across the moor, and it's like an undulating, tussocky, boggy sort of landscape with barely a trail. So I thought, why not? It's an adventure. I'll take my bike that way. And so I did. There was a lot of grunting and swearing going on for a few hours whilst I navigated that. I remember very distinctly the gravel track that kind of like emerged from the moor after a few hours. It was just this like tiny little slither of golden gravel. And I think I almost like kneeled down onto the ground and kissed it because I'd had such a time dragging my bike over these little streams as well. It was all, I nearly fell in them. And yeah, I remember that. And then getting back on my bike to ride it. Oh, it felt amazing. I think I put some music on at that point. The landscape was incredible. Like the direction I was heading in, which is Glencoe, I remember it being very moody. There's dark clouds sort of looming over all the mountains that way. And I was aiming straight for it. I saw deer and I continued on. I picked up the West Highland Way. Probably one of my favourite days, actually. I had my baptism of fire that evening when I was pitching my tent. I had never experienced the Scottish midge before.
Oh, midge season. What time of year? Was this like June or July or August or?
August, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I knew of them, but I hadn't experienced them. And I was looking for somewhere to pitch my tent. And I was like, I'll just find somewhere nice and, sheltered out of the wind. And I opted for this little spot down a bank next to a river. It was quite boggy. But there's no midge around. There's a bit of a breeze at that point. So I didn't really think anything of it. And I started to pitch my tent. And then the breeze just dropped. And thousands and thousands and thousands of midges just came out the ground.
Oh, like a plume of midges heading straight for Ceri.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was like, oh my God. I don't even think I bought a midgie net on this trip because, I'd never done it before. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what I was doing pretty much. So I ran away from my camp spots just to give them a minute. And I ran back again and I put a pole in my tent and I ran back. And that was on repeat for, the next half an hour whilst I was trying to get my tent up.
That would have been a hilarious time lapse. I don't know about you. I know you're into photography.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
done many a time lapse sequence of like pitching tents. It would have been hilarious to see that play out.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been. It was so silly. And I was like, I think I was giggling. I think you have to have a sense of humor, don't you? And stuff like this.
Oh, you do.
God, I remember as well, I managed to get it up and I was like, yes, yes, yes. And I thought, oh, I'll run away again, give them a minute to sort of like disperse. And then I'll just leg it into my tent, close myself in, and all will be well. And I did that and I thought I'd outsmarted them. And I closed myself up and I lay down and there was just like this massive cloud of midges just in my tent, like swarming above my head.
No! What do you do then? I've wondered this. I've wondered this about midges, and I've wondered this about people who are in like malaria areas and there's mosquitoes, and people who, in Alaska dealing with midges there. Like, what do you do when they're in your tent? Like, I guess you have to get them out somehow. Like, is it like...
Well, I was just clapping my hands,
a million hand claps.
Hour. I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't going to go back out there, so... Yeah, that was me just clapping away. It would have sounded quite funny if someone was walking past.
Again, a great overlay on the time lapse, right?
Yes.
Oh, what a baptism of fire.
Yeah, it was.
It's funny how we look back on those very first bikepacking adventures with that, because there's always, and I don't know whether it's just an inherent part of humans telling stories, but the stories we often look back on the most fondest have a bit of grim in them. I remember my very first bikepacking trip, it was in the high country in New South Wales in an area called the Jugungle Wilderness, which is amazing. We overnighted at a hut there, very similar to a Scottish bothy. But I remember the very week before going out on that ride with my husband. We were on our mountain bikes. It's all off-road trails. There's no cars. It's locked gates, which is brilliant. Knowing that there's not going to be a car is amazing, right? But I distinctly remember when we arrived at that hut, turning to my husband and saying, yeah, bikepacking will be awesome, but we would never come here for our first trip. Like, that would just be so mega hard because it was just so steep, and climbing even without a load was hard. But funnily enough, the week later we did it. we had two other friends in tow.
Mm-hmm.
We nicknamed our group the Goonbag Adventurers because we bought, I don't know if that's an Aussie term, but cask wine. Like cheap. Yeah. So we each had I think we bought like a 2-litre red cask wine with us, which one of our goonbaggers, Liam, used as a pillow when it was empty. And the Goonbag Adventurers came. But yeah, that was a struggle to get there, but it's still one of the fondest trips. And just hearing you talk about the midges, it's the same, right?
Yeah, because you always remember the harder trips, don't you? Those harder days. Yeah, you get through it, don't you? And it's fine. It's always going to be fine.
Do you think, though, the harder days, we remember them because, I don't know, is there a sense of pride of getting through it or something? Or it was just something so ingrained in our memory because we were so present in that hard moment? Because I've had some amazing times on blue sky days. I'm sure of it. I'm certain of it. But it's the hard days you always recall, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Probably the latter, actually. I think it's just because you are so present. You are so, I guess, emotionally invested in doing what you're doing at that time, and maybe just the sheer ridiculousness of it all. Yeah, I definitely remember the harder days more than the easier days, for sure.
How long was that first trip in Scotland?
Just shy of 2 weeks.
Wow, so your first trip was a 2-week journey.
Yeah.
Oh my God, mine was a weekender.
Oh, no, it's all good. It's just getting out there, isn't it? I think I was just really excited. The thing that prompted me, I'd actually watched a TED Talk by Lee Craigie.
Oh, how awesome is Lee? Lee, you are an absolute legend.
Yeah, God, I would follow that woman blindly into battle. Yeah, I'm a big fan of her.
Oh, and she's a massive advocate, especially for women and those marginalised genders in the sport as well. She's just brilliant. We need a million Lees.
We totally do. Yeah, and it was her TED Talk that really captured my imagination. It was her account of her Highland Trail 550 event that she took part in, and I just thought it just sounded so wonderful. Like it sounded so freeing just to go off on your bike with everything attached, everything you needed. And yeah, and that it was just a seed at first, and that seed sort of took roots in my mind, and before I knew it, I was researching routes. I was looking at the OS maps and just trying to see where I could go. And I don't know about you, but when you plan a route, it's so easy to get carried away with it, and that's just what happened. I was like, got to go everywhere. Got to make the most of it.
I don't know about you, but sometimes it is, and then like you see you've got the route, but then you see, oh, actually, if I include this little extra bit around there, and it's not that far, so it'll be awesome, and it is, but it's like it's not that far, but it might be 15 kilometres off road, which is actually really hilly or something. Like all of a sudden, you come back with an epic, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm pretty bad for that actually, because I'll look at a map and I'm like, oh well, it's definitely not that far, is it? Because looking at a map, everything's tiny, isn't it? Until you're out there on it. Yeah, I don't know. You just get on with it, don't you? Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool. So yeah, that was my first ever trip, and it was wonderful. Really, really wonderful time. I was actually quite sad to be going back home at the end of it. Yeah, I remember felt I was quite emotional. Didn't want it to end.
Where are we in the timeline of Ceri's bikepacking here? Like, what year would we be talking about now?
This was back in 2018, August 2018.
And to think of all the journeys you've taken since, Ceri.
Yeah, there's been a few. Yeah, like lots of little ones, micro adventures, overnighters and things, and then I've had a couple more bigger ones, for a few weeks and things. Yeah, there's been lots actually. I'm trying to think back to all of them.
Do you ever, you're talking about overnighters, do you have, not literally, but do you ever have like an overnighter in your back pocket? Like, say, routine in life is just getting at you and you know that you need a circuit breaker. Is there like a classic overnighter that you'll take? Or do you always seek out new adventures when you're going somewhere?
Yeah, generally new ones. Yeah, I really enjoy sort of, just the unknown really, and passing through like novel landscapes and things like that. Yeah, I mean, there's some places that I have visited with my bike, a few times, locally, just because they're beautiful places and they're, easy to get to and things, and there's some bothies around here. But generally, if I need a little adventure just to dust off the cobwebs, I'll try and figure out somewhere new to go, have a look on the maps, just to, explore.
Your adventures aren't just solo adventures either. Like, you do also take adventures with others as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do, yes.
How did that come to being? Because, like, cycling, you were talking about road cycling initially, and that is a very social, can be a very social sort of scene if you want it to be. It can be as social as you want, I guess. And gravel riding can be a bit that way as well. But how did you find a community around bikepacking? You were talking initially about, mountain biking as a way of getting you off-road, but did that mountain biking community also have a off-road bikepacking element to it?
Well, no, not really. I mean, because when I first started mountain biking, I was in the countryside. I didn't really know that many people. I haven't been bikepacking with any of my friends that got me into mountain biking when I was there. But it was when I moved back up here to near Llanberis, I just started to organise some little bike rides amongst, friends of friends. I don't really know them that well because I was quite new to the area. They grew arms and legs. They would happen more and more frequently. And then I organised like an overnighter. And that was the first ever bike packing trip that I went on with people, just to a bothy locally. And that's how it started. And that community in this area just grew and grew and grew from that. And I met more and more people who were up for that, up for the adventure. I've made some really great friends through it as well. And yeah, and we're quite like-minded around here. So it's not hard to find someone to go on an adventure with.
Would you also have had the privilege of like seeing people grow their adventure legs that way as well? So I would say with the journey that you have taken over a number of years, you'd probably, and you might not say this yourself, but you would be a classic mentor to someone who's finding their roots in off-road bikepacking. Have you had that awesome feeling of seeing a newcomer to this side of our adventure sport and see them sort of, their first overnighter and then see them sort of expand from that as well?
Yeah, I guess I have, Yeah, there's been a few people I know, some friends that have undertaken trips by themselves, having not done it previously, and that has been really wonderful to see.
Has that been something you've reflected on? And what are your thoughts of when you think about that side of this social aspect of our sport too?
Well, the thing that popped into my head, an adventure two friends went on very recently. So Lena and Emily, they went to cycle the Badger Divide. They went to bikepack it. Lena specifically hasn't really done any bikepacking before, but she had this idea in her head that she wants to go and explore it. And she bought a bike recently as well. She came out on a few rides with us and she loved it. It was amazing to see. She was just so stoked the entire time. I think from that, this idea came to, go on a mini bikepacking trip. She went on with our friend Emily, but she didn't know, how to take a wheel off her bike, anything like that, any sort of mechanical maintenance, things like that, or, what to bring, what to do. So she got in touch with me, and we had like a bit of a chinwag about what bikepacking entails and things like that. And she came over and we had a bit of a chat again, messed around with the bikes just to sort of, show her some little bits and bobs that would, perhaps help her out if something went awry while she was up in Scotland. That was amazing. That was really cool to sort of see her go from, the first initial idea to then blossom into learning everything that she needed to learn. I mean, she was always going to do it. She's a very capable human. She's, wonderful. And then to see her and Emily out in Scotland bikepacking, just that whole journey was just, it's quite special. I felt very proud of them.
Mega, you should. And you said a few things there that really resonated with me, like the idea of going into it with that curiosity of, I really want to give this a go, but even just how do I take my wheel off? Like we all start there.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all start there. We all don't have a clue about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing is there's an element where you don't need to know 100% of everything to do it either. Like, and sometimes you 100% know everything and stuff still happens too.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. I know it's all part of it, isn't it? And you learn on the way. I certainly did. On that first trip to Scotland, I just about knew how to fix a puncture. But if anything went really wrong, then I would have been pretty stuck, I think. Maybe I would have been able to sort it, but you definitely learn as you go. Yeah.
Something that you've done, which I think has been brilliant and must be brilliant for your mechanical competence, is you built up your own bike from a frame set.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. That was a personal challenge to myself.
Mega challenge.
Yeah, it was a mega challenge. I'm not very mechanically minded at all. I know I've learned bits and bobs over the years, trailside repairs and things, but building a bike was definitely
next level.
Yeah, definitely. But I wanted to just challenge myself to see if I could do it. And again, it was one of those ideas, and I couldn't shake it. I just had to get out of my system and do it. And yeah, I rather impulsively bought a frame not long after thinking about it.
Sometimes that's the best thing to do, isn't it? It's like to jump in right in. And once you've got the frame looking at you in the house, you're like, well, I've got to do something with you now.
Exactly. It's quite an expenditure, isn't it?
How did you go about building the frame set up then?
Well, I found it quite intimidating, but I broke it down into sort of sections. I didn't look at the whole thing, as a whole, because that was quite overwhelming. But I just took the components step by step. So I would find the wheels first, and then I'd find the cassette, the drivetrain, just focusing in on one small aspect of the bike at a time. And, researching it as well was really, really good. We've got so much information at our fingertips, with the internet and stuff. You can always find out what you need to find out. I think it was just about putting in the time and energy to research it.
There's some really good channels there on YouTube as well for people who are looking at doing that, really good informative channels as well.
Yeah.
You must have found it so empowering, sort of breaking it down into little bite-sized chunks and then doing it. What was the first ride like? That would have been, oh my gosh.
Terrifying.
I think I'd feel that because did you have that little bit of doubt in the back of your head of,
I had massive doubt. Yeah, it was little. It was huge.
Where did you take it for its first ride? Was it like a tarmac path or?
Yeah, well, it was just on the roads, and I went off-road with it as well. And yeah, it took a little bit of time to sort of trust it because I just honestly thought it was all just going to fall apart. I had no faith in my abilities or anything like that. Completely didn't trust myself. But yeah, I took it for its first ride and it didn't fall apart, which is amazing. And it hasn't fallen apart since, which is great.
The biggest gift you've given yourself is you built the bike up, so you know what to do with it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I can look after it for years to come. Yeah, I'm very proud of myself for being able to do that. Yeah, it's definitely facilitated a lot of confidence in, mechanics. So yeah, it was really cool.
I've said it on the show, it's my own little personal challenge to learn more about fixing stuff. Like I can totally fix a puncture. I've replaced a gear cable before. I've, done a roadside bodge where I've got a slashed tyre and managed to get home and all those sort of things. But
Yeah.
it's little things that I still like. I could fix my rim brakes on my road bike, but disc brakes I know when they're not right, but I'm not sure how to make them right. So that's my challenge this year, is to learn all about brake maintenance, see how this goes.
Well, you just got to research it. There's so much out there. And when you start looking, it's not as hard as it may seem, because that's, initially what I thought was like, oh God, it's going to be so, so, so hard. I'm not going to be able to do it. But yeah, when you break it down into smaller sections, you tackle them like that, and you can get your head around it. It takes a little bit of patience, and a bit of trial and error, but yeah, just persevere with it.
I feel like you must have an extra special bond with your bike now as well, the one that you built up, right?
I do. I love my bike so much.
Does it have a name?
Yeah, she's called Lee.
Oh, hi, Lee. Oh, is it after Lee Craigie?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. I love it. I love it even more. It's brilliant. What a tribute.
Yeah.
So I want to talk then. We've talked a little bit about, like, you head to Scotland quite regularly for your off-road, like, bikepacking trips, but also Wales is definitely a big part of your life, and with proximity as well. You've ridden quite thoroughly through Wales too, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Well, it's my home country, so yes, it's an amazing place to explore. I know North Wales like the back of my hand, and I've done quite a lot of cycling around Mid Wales. South Wales is still a lot of places I haven't been, but I'm in the middle of exploring that this year. But yeah, Wales is beautiful. I'm very, very fortunate to live here.
Are you listening to the podcast as someone who is currently on a bike adventure, or maybe you're a bike traveller who's plotting out your next bikepacking trip? Well, if your adventure is going to be taking you through regions where clean water is hard to find, you can make a difference by carrying and delivering a water filter. My recent episode with Em Holbert highlights her amazing project, which is called the Water Cycle, and Em is encouraging other bike travellers to get in touch with her and get on board in water filter delivery. If you would like to get on board with this amazing initiative, send me an email, podcast@seektravelride.com, and I will put you in touch with Em directly so we can make this water cycle community grow even more expansive and bring clean water to more places that need it the most. Okay, now back to the episode. What's the feelings that you have riding through Wales? Like, if you were to close your eyes and just think of you going on a ride through Wales, what sort of feelings do you think you're going to have?
Well, it's home, isn't it? It's home. It's beautiful. It can be so wild. The landscape, so different. You've got North Wales, it's so like mountainous. You've got Mid Wales with all the rolling hills. And then you got like the Brecon Beacons, which is just a very beautiful area to ride in. Wildly different again to anywhere. The coast is amazing. Some of the west coast on Anglesey is just spectacular. Some of my favourite stretches are on the west coast of Anglesey. You can ride around this forest called Newborough, and yeah, there's loads of like gravel tracks amongst the forest there. It's like a Corsican pine forest, and there's little tracks you can kind of wiggle through the sand dunes on. It does get a bit sandy, so watch out. But yeah, it's just so varied. Yeah, and the mountains are just so grand and majestic, and it's home. It's where I feel most peaceful, I guess.
And being out in nature and in those landscapes is definitely something that energises you. I mentioned in my intro, you're also a really keen photographer.
Mm-hmm.
How long has that been a thing for you? Have you always been that way minded? Was it something you took on as a child, as an adult? Like, what about your photography?
Yeah, I started taking photos with my phone. This is probably back in like 2016, 2015. I started to put in a little bit more effort with the photos I used to take. And this is just to document, trips and things and adventures, like, backpacking. And it wasn't until 2017 that I got a proper camera. It was a little Canon PowerShot, point and shoot. And that's the camera. I took that on my first bikepacking trip just to document it, just to sort of, just to take photos of the landscapes and anything I would see along the way. It's almost like a visual diary, I think, isn't it? And from that, I had my camera with me everywhere I went, that little point and shoot, not just on bikepacking trips, but just everyday life. And I found myself becoming more and more obsessed with it over the years. And then I got like a proper DSLR, and that was only recently. That was November 23. And I really threw myself into learning how to shoot on that, manual mode, and learning all the different technicalities of taking photos. And that's the thing that comes with me the most on bikepacking trips. I will always bring that because I just love the quality of it. I love how it feels in my hands. I love, it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? You can get so creative with it as well. Like with a phone, it's always the same photo, isn't it?
Yeah, there is that creativeness. There's just also a different glow. And I say that, I mean, I've taken so many photos. There is an adage that the best camera you've got is the one that's in your hand and the one that you've got with you. And like phones are so capable these days. They're amazing. And the quality of them, you can take a photo, you can blow it up, it'll be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, there's something different when it's actually a proper camera in my hand.
Yeah, well, you can just like change the sort of the aperture, the depth of field.
What aperture priority do I want here, and how am I going to frame it up, and where's my and this composition comes in with whatever you've got, but there is just something there, and I think, and maybe you would relate to this, Ceri, I get genuinely so much more excited when I've got my camera with me to go out for a ride. Especially if it's somewhere where I've been so many times before, it doesn't matter. I know what the landscapes are going to be like, but I always go, oh, I wonder what the sky's going to be like. I wonder if there's going to be cloud magic. Oh, I wonder, it's just been raining and there's going to be a beautiful glisten on the forest and the carpet there. Is that something that you visualize for yourself when you go? Like, do you get excited about that side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. You just don't know what you're going to see, so you always need to have your camera there with you, don't you? And the thing I love about bringing my camera with me on bikepacking trips is, the rate at which you travel on a bike. It's it's not as slow as walking, not as fast as driving, so it's kind of like the perfect pace, I think. And you can just stop wherever, if you see something, and you can spend some time photographing it. I find that it's very like calming for me. Time slows down when I've got my camera. It also feels like time flies by as well when I'm taking photos, like paradoxically.
My kilometers per hour goes down significantly when I've got my camera.
Yeah, there was a section. I was in the French Alps last year, and there's a section along the Transverdon trail up in the mountains, and there were these butterflies everywhere. There were just so many of them. It was amazing, just flitting around and landing on all the wildflowers. And I was just so enticed by them. I just got off my bike, and I think I was there for maybe 2 hours, just crawling around, photographing them. And
you've got some incredible shots of that, and they're like amazing colors too. There's like blue butterflies and all. I was like, wow,
they were absolutely just so beautiful. I hadn't seen anything like it before, because obviously the wildflowers up there are just absolutely stunning. So yeah, and that's one of the things I love most about traveling by bike with my camera. It's just slow, it's easy, there's no pressure. You can just really immerse yourself into the photography. Yeah, what a way to sort of find new things to take photographs of, because every corner you go around, it's going to be different, isn't it? You don't know what you're going to find, you don't know what you're going to see. And it's always beautiful, especially when you're off the road and things. So yeah, it's one of my favorite things. Really makes me tick.
Do you think you visualize that before a trip? I remember, and I've said it a few times, apparently psychologically, the greatest happiness we receive from an upcoming holiday is actually in the anticipation phase, when we're anticipating and planning it, which is an interesting concept to think about if you pause for a bit. But do you find yourself anticipating the photography of your journeys as well?
I do. I think about it. I think like, oh, maybe this is what it's going to look like. Yeah, my mind does wander to it, but you never really truly know until you're there in the moment. Yeah, you can sort of visualize it a little bit, but also, if you've never been to that place before, you just don't know, do you? Yeah. And I love looking back through the photos. It's one of my favorite things to do. I haven't got a very good working memory. It's really nice to have like a visual diary of my travels, my trips and things, and just, day-to-day life, I suppose. The little moments along the way that you might not remember. Yeah, and it teleports you right back to that moment, doesn't it?
It does. I must say, we were talking about the difference between a DSLR and like a phone. Something I do love about the phone snaps that I've taken is it reminds me every now and then randomly of a photo I might have taken a few years ago. It was like on this day in 2022. And I'm like, oh, wow. And it's amazing how just that visual reminder really roots me back into that place.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
So you would say that your camera is maybe your luxury non-negotiable item that you have to take on a bikepacking trip?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, me too. Every now and then I take my drone and I'm always surprised at the amount of times I never quite stop to use it as much. It's my challenge to try and do that a little bit more. Something I did come across from you, Ceri, which was hilarious. I've been your online stalker in a really good way for the past week or so, knowing that I'm going to interview you. And I do this for all my guests. I trawl through, what have you put out there? Where have you gone? And it's a beautiful way of learning about you before we chat.
Mm-hmm.
This story that I saw, and I can't even remember where you were. I think it may have been in the Alps. You might know when I say it, but I just thought this to me is like proper quintessential bikepacking reality. And it was, well, this day started off really well, didn't it? Due to me forgetting my sponge for the pots, I had to contend with tuna-flavoured coffee in the morning. Delicious. And then moments after packing up and setting off on my bike, full of gusto and enthusiasm, I ended up going for an unintentional swim during a river crossing, literally half a mile in. It's almost a shame there's no one around to witness me flapping about in the water, trying to stand up with the fully loaded bike. But hey-ho, after emptying the stream from my shoes, I pressed on and the day turned out to be a right corker, bright sunshine, happy face. Do you remember this day?
Yeah, I do. I remember that very, very well. That was actually in mid-Wales. I think that might have been maybe my second bikepacking trip, but just a short one. Yeah.
You took me right there with the tuna-flavoured coffee.
Oh, honestly, but I have to have my coffee in the morning.
Likewise.
My coffee mornings are, sacred to me. So I had to have it regardless of the, bits of tuna in with it. But yeah, I remember that very,
how do you like your
well.
coffee? With a side of last night's tuna?
Oh, it was gross. But yeah, I remember that. And then the river crossing as well. And it was so silly of me because I saw the bedrock going across it. And I just thought it'd be fine, but obviously it was so slippery. And I just went straight in.
Oh.
But no, it's okay. It turned out to be quite a warm day, thankfully. Yeah, all was well in the end.
I can so relate to that. I'm an anxious person. I'm anxious more off-road. When the road goes downhill really steeply, I get anxious. When it's really rocky, I get anxious. And with river crossings, even if they're not that steep, my anxious brain goes, but there could be a real steep drop-off that's hidden. And if you try and ride across this, you'll go over the bars and then you'll be anxious. And so I'm really tentative with river crossings. What about you? Like, do you love and embrace them, or how do you approach them?
I think I used to embrace them a lot more a few years ago. But now that I cycle around my camera, often on my back,
oh yeah,
because I have fallen in a few in my time. But yeah, I used to just cycle through them, and mostly it was okay. Just on occasion I might slip. But yeah, this day and age I'm definitely a lot more careful. Don't want to have a wet camera. That would be awful. So
yeah, I'd rather have wet feet and just walk through really slowly.
Yeah, and sometimes that's just the safest thing to do, isn't it? So yeah, especially if you're on a bike.
Cold water therapy for your toes.
Yeah, right, exactly. You don't want to get cold. Depends where you are, but it could be a bit of a grim day otherwise.
I want to take you to another one of your trips. Pretty sure this was in Scotland. Again, it's the reality of facing up to situations on a bike as well, which I really loved. This one here. My heart was racing. I was gripped as I made it past the point of no return. And then for some reason I started to sing to them. Please don't charge me, Mr. Coo. I'm just passing through.
Oh,
I have no idea why, but it seemed to take my mind off how much I was bricking it. I kept going careful not to make eye contact with them, keeping them in my periphery. I made my way slowly along the track. I could tell they were watching me. I'm sure if they were able to make a bewildered facial expression, they would have. It must have been less than 3 minutes before I felt like I'd cleared them, but it felt like an eternity, and all the while they didn't move an inch. I was in the safe zone on the other side. What a damn bloody relief. You're talking about having to cross through a field of Highland coos or Highland cows, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to cattle in fields.
I have a story with cows and fields.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had a wild camp just on the local hill, which I literally can see from my house, with another good friend who's also called Ceri, by the way, from Wales originally. We'd set up wild camp thinking we were absolute awesome adventurers, and then a whole herd of cows just descended on camp. And then, oh my gosh, all we could think of is cows trampling our tents. They came to sort of lick our tents. It was interesting. So I appreciate your cows. You tell me about it now.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, I never used to be frightened of them, but I did get chased by a Frisian bull once, which was horrendous. It was
Whoa.
fine. I made it back over
They're
the stile.
huge too.
Yeah, they're so athletic, and they are like the psychopaths of cows, I would say. I made it back over the stile, okay, in one piece. But following that incident, I have been highly aware of their presence if I'm in a field with them. you know.
Very respectful of the power of a bull.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm very cautious if I have to go through a field with them. Most of the time, they don't care. They don't bat an eyelid. But yeah, I won't chance it. So on that particular occasion, I was trying to find another way to get across, but it seemed a little bit impossible at the time. So I just went straight through. But yeah, I made it out alive. So it's all good in the end.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, if the rest of the story, I think, did you make it to a bothy at the end of that day?
No. I found some shelter to sleep in. Yeah, an hour or so afterwards. Yeah, so to get a bit creative sometimes with shelter. I didn't bring a tent on that trip.
Wow.
Yeah, just
I haven't done the bivvy thing. I don't know. I don't know if that's a step too far. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I guess out in the wild in Scotland.
it's fine. Well, it depends on how you are as a person. It's not for everyone. And it can get a bit chilly sometimes, I suppose. But my favourite thing about bivvying is waking up in the morning, and it's often very quiet. It's very peaceful. Obviously, depending where you are, in my experiences of it, it's very quiet. It's very peaceful. It's nice just to sort of lay there for a minute and listen to the birds and watch, all the insects scuttle around. Yeah, I think it's a really lovely thing to do if you get a chance to do it. Maybe in the summer, you should definitely give it a go.
And on a warm summer evening as well, when the starry sky, like just being able to visually see that straight up would be
Oh,
amazing.
yeah, honestly, that is one of the best things.
Did you do that a little bit when you were in the French Alps?
I did, yeah. I vivied, yeah, the whole time I was there. I think I stayed in a couple of places. Yes, I did. I remember the very first night, actually, I vivied. Yeah, I was really looking forward to it as well because I love bivvying. And I just cycled from Nice from the airport to just within the Mercantour National Park.
Oh,
Ah,
amazing. What a place around there it is. In the Alps Maritime. Yeah.
yeah, really beautiful. Yeah, and I found somewhere by a river off the road and stuff. And I set up my little bivvy. Usually I make like a little makeshift den out of a tarp and my bike, so it's sort of shelter from the rain. But it was going to be a clear night. It was warm, it was lovely, so I didn't. And I remember wriggling into my sleeping bag, into my bivvy, ready to go to sleep. And so, for context, prior to this trip, I had been researching it, and I always research the wildlife because I love wildlife and I like to, know what's out there. And I'd read about the well-established wolf population, and it just popped into my head. I didn't sleep a wink that night. Honestly, I was
Oh, that would
so
be me.
I was,
Every noise you hear, right?
yeah, like,
It's the wolf.
oh God, I know. I felt really silly because they don't really bother humans. They're not that interested. But obviously, my monkey mind had latched onto the fact that maybe I would make a tasty midnight snack to a pack of wolves in the night. So I didn't really sleep. I was sweating all night. I think I was in and out a little bit, and I remember I had this really vivid nightmare in the middle of the night. I must have fallen asleep for maybe 5 minutes. And I woke up, I sat up bolt upright, sweating because I had this dream that there was a wolf next to my head. And when I had woken up, I felt something touching the back of my head. And
Oh,
I
no.
was like, oh my God. I was like, it's a wolf, it's definitely a wolf. And I was just like, it's okay, it's fine. And then I came round, moments later, and it was just my pillow had come up in.
I was going to say it was your pillow, wasn't
Yeah, in my
it?
baby bag. So
That reminds me, oh my gosh, it's amazing the thoughts that are in our mind of what something could be. It reminds me of my recent interview with awesome adventurous Saoirse Potty. Hi Saoirse, you're a legend. And she was talking about her first time wild camping, and she could hear these footsteps getting closer and closer and closer, and she was bolt upright bricking it, and then realised that it was her heartbeat.
Oh gosh, it's funny, isn't it? Your imagination just runs wild sometimes.
It does. And I guess that's the thing with wild camping is there's times where it's fine, but there's times where it is a mind, it's a thought, vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Do you find that for you, you're more at ease with wild camping? And the more you've done it, the less those thought patterns come to.
Hey, awesome listeners. Are you loving what you're hearing on Seek Travel Ride? Do you want to keep the good vibes rolling? Then head over to our Buy Me a Coffee page and show your support for the podcast. Just a little virtual caffeine love can keep me brewing up the content which you adore. Click the link in the show notes, buy me a virtual coffee, and let's keep this podcast party going. Thanks, legends. Now back to the episode.
Mind?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it took me by surprise then because I'd never felt like that before while camping, or, bivvying and things. Yeah, I've always loved camping. I've always felt very safe, I guess, especially, I usually camp in, quiet places, out in nature and things. And yeah, the more you do it, the more you just get used to it. I feel safer and more at peace camping than I do even staying in a bothy. You're in your own little bubble, and you'd be tucked out of the way. Yeah, I do love camping. I do love bivvying. Yeah.
I find also, if I'm on like a multi-day bike adventure, I find it easier after the first night. And I think there's also an element of I'm exhausted, so I sleep better too.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely a huge element of that. Sometimes you're just so tired. You haven't got time to think about anything. You're just kind of like out sort of thing. Yeah, out for the count.
Do you ever combine, we've talked about you combining your passion for photography with your bike riding. You're not a fell runner now because you've got a dodgy knee, but do you hike? And I'm not talking hike a bike, I know you do that, but do you go hiking after, do you bike pack to a hiking trail and then go hike somewhere, or is it purely bike packing only and hike a bike only now?
Yeah, the latter, I would say. I'm not much of a walker. I will occasionally go on a hike, but yeah, generally if I'm bike packing, I'll just be with my bike the entire time. Yeah.
Have you had many rides where you've felt like you've just taken your bike for a hike though?
Yes. Yeah, there's been a few, definitely. Yeah.
Sense of humour failure moments on Sue, or you're totally fine with that?
Let me think. I think I'm thinking of 2 days from 2 different trips. One being in Scotland, where I went through Glen Affric, which is a really, really, really beautiful part of Scotland. I think it's one of the last remaining ancient Caledonian forests they've got going there. It's really a spectacular landscape, really grand. And it was fine. I was just riding along. It was like a Land Rover track, for a few miles. And this Land Rover track leads you to a youth hostel there, a really remote youth hostel. And beyond this point, that gravel track just ends abruptly, and it is just replaced by a really rocky, lumpy, narrow sort of single track. And for me, it was like nigh on impossible to ride with a fully loaded bike. And it just went on and on and on for miles. So I would have to drag my bike through there. I don't think I ever had a sense of humour failure. I think I just had my head down. I was just getting on with it because it was temporary. It's only ever temporary, right?
Sometimes you've got to remind yourself of that though. This is temporary. This too will pass. It's like a classic anxiety method that you do as well.
Exactly. I think it's one of the nice things about bikepacking. Like if you do just want to stop and pitch a tent or set up camp for the night, whatever, you can do because you've got everything you need with you. And that's the beauty of it. There's no pressure. But equally, going through that landscape, it was stunning. It was so beautiful. It was such a distraction from the task at hand of having to drag my bike and myself, over this track. Probably not the worst one. I think it went on for the longest, but there was a really, really bad one in the French Alps last year. It was the last day of my trip. And I thought it was going to be a lovely day, just an easy day on quiet roads down to the sea, back to Nice. But I opted to take an off-road track. I was following Google Maps at this point, which I should have learned from the last time I did that I was going to get sandbagged.
Google Mapped, a bit like being commuted or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly like that. And then this track, it was great at first. I was having a whale of a time. It was beautiful. It was, very quiet. I wasn't on the road. And eventually it just stopped. And it turned into this extremely narrow, overgrown track. And it was just full of really spiky bushes and brambles and things like that. And, steep hills you'd have to drag your bike up, and then like ravines you'd have to go down, clamber down with your bike. And that went on for so long. Honestly, that was just ridiculous. And I think I was borderline getting annoyed at this point. just because I wasn't expecting it. I was pretty knackered from the trip. But like looking back now, I laugh about it because it was just so silly. Like at the time I got out of there, my legs were just cut up to pieces. I was bleeding. I was bruised from like the bike hitting me at points when I was trying to drag it down like the trail in places and things like that. Yeah, it was definitely silly. But again, temporary, right? You just get on with it, and eventually when you get out of it, you're so thankful, aren't you, to be able to ride a track, and it feels great.
It takes me back to the first trip that you took, and you said you can still visibly picture that little gravel track that appeared out of the nothing in Scotland, and you nearly feel like kissing it. Like there is that amazing, oh, I got through, yay.
Yeah, exactly. It's just amplified tenfold, isn't it? So, yeah, and I think it's good to have, well, I personally enjoy those elements of a trip. I like the hard sections, adds to the colourfulness of a trip.
What about racing? Like doing like off-road bikepacking races, is that something you aspire to do, have done, want to do, not interested in?
I haven't done any official bikepacking events. I've done one of the racing collectives routes, Wales Douro. I just did that in my own time. That was really cool. Yeah, as a bit of a challenge to myself. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would be keen. I'm interested. A few of my friends have just done the Dales Divide. That's just happened. I'm feeling quite inspired by that, actually. I thought maybe I might give that a go next year, perhaps, just to see. I think it'd be definitely a different vibe to doing things solo, which is what generally I'm used to.
Oh, absolutely. I've interviewed a couple of guests who've done Dale's Divide, and actually I've got a super fan who did Dale's Divide on Instagram, Diamond Davies. I don't know if you saw her story, but oh my goodness, I think her free hub gave up.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I think she ended up with like a 40-kilometre walk or 40-mile walk maybe even.
Wow.
Yeah, and she got through it. What a champ, right?
Wow, amazing. Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah, it does look cool. It looks like it'd be good. A great experience and a great atmosphere, just to be cycling around with so many like-minded souls. So yeah, definitely curious to give something like that a go at some point when I've got the time. Yes.
When I look back at your adventures, I can tell that being in big landscapes and, that feel of being in a beautiful, new, pristine environment as well, when I think of places like Wales or Scotland or the French Alps. Another journey you took, which looked incredible, which you did with your good friend as well, was in Morocco.
Yes.
What spurred Morocco on?
It was actually Saz's idea. She wanted to go and do the Atlas Mountain race route. I was just like, yeah, okay, let's go and do it. Definitely her idea. Yeah, before we knew it, we were planning it. We were plotting the routes. We were looking at flights. We were just making it happen. And it was such a special trip. It was incredible. I'm a bit lost for words actually when I think about it. It was really special because I was able to share it with her, and she's like one of my closest friends. Just to be in that environment with her and, navigate everything that we did together.
You had some challenges there as well. It wasn't like all smooth sailing, right?
No, not at all. No, from the get-go, it was just like, God. Yeah, like I remember just getting to the little hostel the riad we were staying in Marrakesh. We built up our bikes and we were going to go for like a shakedown ride just to make sure everything was okay. We put everything on correctly, etc., etc. But we were really apprehensive about cycling in Marrakesh. I don't know if you've ever been.
No, I haven't. I've got good friends that have been, and I have lived vicariously through many guests who've been, but I've not been there myself.
Not yet.
Exactly. I like your thinking, Ceri. We are on the same page.
But yeah, so it's carnage, basically. It's just absolute carnage. So setting off from the riad was crazy. Like I said, we were very apprehensive. Because we got the taxi to the riad, and that was crazy enough. This taxi driver was overtaking everyone and anyone onto oncoming traffic.
Oh my gosh, heart in mouth moment much?
Yeah, quite a lawless place when it comes to sort of traffic regulations and things like that. So, quite rightly, we were pretty nervous, and we set off very gingerly. But we quickly learned, like, you just had to go with it, go with the chaos, go and like keep with the traffic and be very assertive. And it turned out to be like some of the most fun, probably some of the most dangerous cycling actually, but definitely some of the most fun cycling I'd ever done. It's just crazy. I can't even explain it. You've got like cyclists overtaking donkeys, and you got cars overtaking these cyclists, and you got like trucks overtaking these cars all at the same time onto oncoming traffic. People just pulling out everywhere and anywhere, and just people just walking into the road, willy-nilly. Even if there's like traffic coming, people just stop. So that was our first experience of cycling in Morocco. But by the end of it, on the return leg back to the Riyadh, we were just having loads of fun cycling through. So that was cool. And the following day we left for the Atlas Mountains. It was much quieter, much calmer. It was very quiet as we approached them as well. Very, very hot. I think, we knew it was going to be hot, but, you don't know how hot it's going to be until you actually get there.
What time of year was it?
Like mid-September, around then.
So what sort of temperatures are we talking here? Is it sort of like...
30s, something like mid-30s, I think, on the first day.
Is it a dry heat up in the mountains there?
Oh, it's so dry. Yeah, it's quite...
It's amazing to be that hot, isn't it? Because you're also... they get to quite a high elevation as well. But I guess they are sort of on the border of the desert, really, too, aren't they?
Yeah, they got the Sahara just on the other side, pretty much. So, that, it was a complete contrast to Marrakesh itself. But it was really cool to be on the road and just cycling in this amazing landscape we'd only ever seen from, photos and things like that. And just, traveling through. We went through some amazing little places like these salt mines, which are just, I'd never seen anything like it before. Onwards, as we approached the foot of the Atlas Mountains, they were amazing. They kind of just emerged from like the dust-filled skies, and they were just so grand. And we were so giddy because we were like, we're going to be in them soon, And it was amazing when we finally got onto a bit of off-road. We were both completely, melting by this point. We were so hot. Every time we passed a tiny bit of shade, and I'm talking like, a 2-foot tall bush on the side of the road, we would both like huddle under it, just like get a bit of shade for a minute. Yeah, it was very, very hot. I think we were both sort of flirting with sunstroke a little bit that day. But we were okay. We had loads of water with us and stuff. We had like liters and liters of it, but you can't really escape the heat there. Yeah, that first day, gosh, that was it was challenging, I remember like the first little sort of village, small town we came into. I can't remember the name of it. Obviously, we'd never experienced Moroccan culture before. I remember there was just a lot of men sat around outside everywhere. There was no women in sight. There was the odd kid running around. But we stopped there to try and get some food, and it was just it was interesting because we just got stared at, and
which can feel intimidating, I imagine, as well.
It did feel intimidating, we didn't feel very like welcome. We kind of like shuffled into this place that was selling some like bean stew, and we got some bean stew. It was delicious, but there was just a lot of stares as we were eating. So we just wanted to go, we just wanted to leave quite quickly, I think. Yeah, that was, I guess that was a bit of a culture shock, I suppose.
Did that sort of fade a bit as the trip wore on?
Yeah, there was definitely like little pockets of that, but there was a lot of like wonderful experiences as well, wonderful encounters with locals. And gosh, some of them were just such wonderful, welcoming people, they couldn't do enough for us. I remember like we, a few days into the trip, we'd just been cycling up this gigantic hill for hours. It was really beautiful, right nestled into the Atlas Mountains by this point. And we stopped to get some food, some resupplies at this little shop along the way. We had a tiny bit of like conversation. I had my Google Translate out, so we had a bit of conversation, and it kind of broke the ice a little bit. And eventually they were just like, "Come on, sit down." They poured us some mint tea and things, and we had a further bit of a discussion through Google Translate about where we were from and things like that. And we'd always try and tell them we were from Wales. They would never understand it, obviously, because of the language barrier. But we learnt by saying Gareth Bale, who's a footballer from Wales. They would always be like, Gareth Bale. And they would know we were from Wales.
Football's a huge deal over there.
Yeah, that was like that was a thing that just happened everywhere. It's quite funny. Yeah, and it was lovely. And I think they had some friends passing at one point in like a Jeep or something. And they were offering to like put our bikes on the roof and just take us up the rest of the hill and things like that. They were so, kind and lovely. And we had others sort of pulling in front of us in cars. And giving us water and things like that. And it was actually a really lovely place we stayed. It was like a hotel. And this was towards the end of the trip. And we booked it the night before on booking.com. But when we got there, it was closed.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it was okay. Like Saz was on communications with them, and I sat outside while she was doing that, while she was on the phone trying to work everything out and stuff. And I remember having this really lovely experience with some of the local kids, and they kind of just like they all came round, and I just started showing them photos on the camera, and they were kind of like clambering on me, you know. There must have been like 12 of them, and they were just so curious and interested to see the photos, and it's one of my favorite memories. I just thought it was so sweet and so lovely. Yeah, and then eventually we managed to locate the hotel owners, and they opened it up for us, which was just incredible. We were like, oh, we can stay somewhere else, but they went out of their way to make us feel welcome, to accommodate us, and we had fresh bread baked for us in the morning with honey.
Yum.
They were just wonderful, wonderful people.
I live for food, you know that, Ceri. Oh my gosh, I'm just thinking of fresh Moroccan bread. Yum. I was salivating thinking of the bean stew, actually.
Oh yeah, that was delicious. But yeah, I mean, that particular morning, but having the honey with the bread was just such a treat because we'd been living off. We kind of found it hard to get proper meals along the way.
I heard there's a lot of omelettes.
Yeah, there is a lot of omelettes. Yeah, we had a couple of omelettes. Yeah, and there's a lot of dry bread there as well, which is great for carbs, great for energy. But, after several days of just living off, tuck shop food, sweets, crisps, and then this dry bread, I think we were desperate for some proper, sort of like substantial food, substantial meal. And I think because we'd struggled getting decent meals on the road, we decided to make a really big push for Agadir on the coast one day. And it was a huge push. It was like 170 kilometers.
Massive day.
Oh my, I never cycled that sort of distance, but we were both just desperate to eat something tasty and hot and, all that sort of stuff. So we beelined it there. And that was one of the silliest days, actually, because obviously the distance, we were both pretty tired, I think, from the rest of the trip and just hungry. We were both like frothing at the mouth at the thought of we settled on McDonald's. I know it took about a second to decide on this. We were like, yes, we'll do it. We'll just go there. We'll just smash it out in a day. And it was pretty flat, so it was okay. But yeah, that day was bonkers. I'd fallen off my bike halfway along as well. It really hurt my leg. I'd broke my camera.
Oh no.
Oh well, it was the lens, but it was okay. It was all right. It's one of those things. Yeah, that day was silly.
Ending at the Golden Arches with a big feast.
Oh, honestly, we were like salivating when we saw the Golden Arches. We just like quickened the pace to get there. Honestly, it was the best meal I've ever eaten. I never thought I'd say that about McDonald's, but honestly, it was so, so good. We were both just so worn out, pretty feral by this point. We were just caked in dust and sweat and like just tucking into the best meal of our lives.
What's Moroccan Macca's like? Like, what do you, is it the same or is it?
Yeah, I guess it's just a bog standard McDonald's, isn't it? But at this point, it was just the most, mouth-watering sort of burger and chips and, had a Coke and things like that. And, yeah, it was so good.
Bikepacking brings out all the little luxuries, doesn't it?
I know. It was just, honestly, the state of us, it was just so funny. Everyone was just looking at us like, where have they come from? What have they been doing? But yeah, that was a crazy, crazy day. Nice to be back on by the coast as well. Nice to see the sea. Different again, completely to the Atlas Mountains.
Yeah, it sounds like you just gave yourself a trip through some amazing, vastly different landscapes as well.
Yeah, we did. There was a lot. Like the mountains were definitely my favourite part of the trip. They are just, astonishingly beautiful. It was so grand, wild, really wild. You don't really see a lot of people out there. You might bump into like the odd Berber and his herd of goats. We did on one particular track. It's quite nice actually because I have a bit of an affinity for goats. We have some beautiful goats here in North Wales, our Welsh mountain goats, and I love to photograph them. And he was just walking along and he had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them and they were just like running along. I stopped him, we said hi, I showed him my photos of goats and we bonded. And that was really nice.
Bonding for goats, I love that. I wonder what the Moroccan word for goat is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I can tell you the Greek word. The Greek word for goat is katsiki.
Katsiki?
There you go. Yeah, if you're ever in Greece, katsiki. And a lot of katsikis, katsikia. There you go. Language learning from Bella. Probably going to get someone from Greece tell me that's wrong, but I do have a Greek background, and that's what I've been taught all my life. So there you go. Oh, incredible. But I love those sort of moments because they're not moments that you'd ever plan. Like you're never planning to, say, be in a village with, 12-year-old kids scrambling over you, being excited looking at photos or bonding about goats with a Berber in Morocco on an off-road trail. Like they're moments you embrace when they happen, but you can't anticipate those moments.
No way. Absolutely not. No, and they're just like the little special moments, aren't they?
Yeah. And so special to be able to share it with one of your best friends.
Yes. Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was wonderful to have her there. She's one of my closest friends and a huge inspiration for me.
She's done some big adventures too. I think earlier this year she went through South America, right?
She's still there now. Yeah, she's coming back soon. I think they've just packed up their bikes.
Wow.
I know, it's the end of the trip for them.
Oh, that bittersweet feeling's hitting your heart, Saz.
Yeah, so got to look after them both when they come back here. Got to get some adventures lined up for them.
Oh, yeah, start scheming. And in terms of adventures lined up at home, you're probably like the thought, you're like the source for this now. Like your pet project, Gravel Ride Wales, like you are writing a book about doing this type of stuff in Wales, aren't you? Where did the inspiration for this come about?
Well, it came through a friend of a friend who just got in touch. So basically the publishers, they've already got 2 books out, 2 guidebooks for gravel riding, one in Scotland, and Catherine Moore's just finished hers and that's just been published. She's done the Southwest. So yeah, and they wanted one for Wales. So it just came through word of mouth.
How brilliant.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's quite a project, but it's a really exciting project. And I absolutely love looking at maps. I love poring over OS maps, for hours and hours and hours on end. So, and obviously writing about places in which I travel through and things. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm really looking forward to exploring South Wales as well a little bit more because I don't know it as well as I know North Wales and Mid Wales. So yes, lots of recce rides, which is really cool. That is by far the best bit, I would say.
That would be. Oh my gosh, and I'm just picturing the words and then the images to go in this book will be amazing.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm in charge of the photography for it as well. So yeah, it's going to be a very busy year. But yeah, see what happens, and hopefully it will all be done by March. That's when I'm set to hand it in. Hopefully it'll be out by the following October, autumn time.
If I was to say, if someone was a total new beginner in Wales wanting to take on gravel riding, which part of Wales do you think would be the place that you would tell them to seek out?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try and do some shorter rides and some flatter rides. That's not without a challenge though, because Wales is quite lumpy, as you may know. But the place that sticks out in my mind is Newborough Forest. I mentioned it earlier, it's on the west coast of Anglesey. And yes, it's the Corsican pine forest. It's very, very flat. It's very beginner friendly. Really, really easy gravel. We call it maybe like champagne gravel. Very, very pretty. And you can do, all kinds of different little loops in that forest. And then you can venture a little bit further afield. There's some nice cycle paths heading towards Aberfraw. There's one that heads up to a nature reserve called Corslugga. Again, super flat. And it's right on the beach, it's beautiful. You can go for a little swim afterwards. It's a national nature reserve as well. It's an absolutely spectacular beach just to go and visit anyway, just for a walk around. So I'd probably point them in that direction.
And then if you're coming gravel riding in Wales, the other thing I'm picking up from you is make sure you got a good climbing gear on your bike as well.
Yeah.
What do you run? I don't normally talk about techie stuff, but I feel like this is important. If you're off-road riding in lumpy country, you want a really good climbing gear. What sort of gearing are you taking? Like, what's on Lee?
So Lee, I put a 36 tooth chain ring on Lee on the front, and I think I've got like a 51 or 52 on the back.
Oh, that could pretty much climb up most things, right?
Yeah, honestly, my knees are so thankful for it. So especially like if you have like a loaded bike, it really helps to have that mechanical leverage. But just a 1-to-1 ratio will be okay, for most stuff. There's not many flat places around. The Llyn Peninsula is quite nice, but there's not much gravel there, sadly. But there's a lot of quiet roads, so it's not as lumpy as other parts of Wales.
I think the cool thing, though, just back to gearing, and I noticed this, I put a big climbing cassette onto my gravel bike when I did the crossing of the Pyrenees. Gosh, almost a couple of years ago now, which is scary to think that's how long it is. But it never came off. I remember when I put it on, had the intentions of changing it back to the normal one, and I'm like, I think it was within the first day, I said to my husband, these are never coming off the bikes. But do you know what's really cool about it? just the confidence it's given me to take on some steeper roads that I otherwise just thought, I don't want to do that today. Like, it's just actually, there's that curiosity that's enabled because of that.
Yeah, great. That's really cool, isn't it? It's not so intimidating when you know you can sort of just like chug up it. Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear.
But I'm really excited about your upcoming book. If people are interested in it and want to know more about it and keep an eye on it, what's the best way of them keeping a track of your adventures?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Stills by Ceri, and I've also just made a website finally.
Oh,
yeah, finally. So there'll be a page dedicated to the book on there as well, and that's just stillsbyceri.com.
Stillsbyceri.com. Check her out on Instagram and the website. And listeners, I'll be putting links in the show notes as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. Oh my gosh, Ceri, we've been on a mega journey, and it's just so exciting to talk and to sort of see how your journey has started, how you transitioned from fell running into gravel riding and then taking expeditions in places which energize you as well. It saddens me to wrap the show up. It always does when I talk with energizing guests, but I do have to do it with the same 3 questions. The first one's music related. You know, apart from singing to cows to get through a paddock, you did mention that music's something that you do put on sometimes when you're riding. If you had to pick a song to be the soundtrack to your adventure, what song would you pick?
Oh gosh. Well, it was a bit of a toss-up between 2. They're both quite different. The first was by On the Road Again by Canned Heats. That's, a classic. But I think I've settled on a piece by Ludovico Einaudi, who's an Italian pianist. It's called Experience, and it is just a very, very beautiful piece on the piano. And sometimes I listen to it going through some majestic landscape in Scotland, and it just fits the bill perfectly, So
beautiful. You totally need to send me a link to it. I will not know this piece, but I love a beautiful I love a piano piece. There's something about it, especially when I'm riding. There's just something calming about it for me.
Yeah, I enjoy listening to classical when I'm out on the bike. Yeah, that was cool. So yeah, I'll send it to you definitely.
Awesome. All right, next question. I have a feeling I know the answer, but let's see if you surprise me. You're given a choice one day, Ceri. You can go left, and all day long you are going to be on the most relentless washboard, corrugated, bumpy road of your life. No let up, no smoothness, nowhere. Or if you go right, you're going to be faced with the most brutal headwind of your life, which also has no let up. Which one are you going to choose?
Definitely left.
Your corrugations. I thought you would say this.
100%. Oh, yeah, always.
What's your reasoning for that? Have you just...
Oh, I hate headwinds. Headwinds are the worst. Oh, they're just awful, aren't they?
They are.
Soul destroying. You go nowhere fast.
They are. Although corrugations, like really bad proper corrugations that are never ending, are also horrendous.
I quite like the bumps, so I don't know, maybe. Maybe I'd enjoy
How
it.
did someone who loves off-road adventures not pick the off-road corrugations, right? Oh, very, very good. And then final question, Ceri. I can't wait to hear your answer on this. I want you to finish this sentence for me, and that is, the best thing about taking a bike adventure is...
It would be a trip into the unknown. Just to be able to tackle things as they come your way. And with that, the kind of self-reliance and sort of confidence that facilitates. Yeah, definitely just the unknown, I think, is just the most wonderful thing about an adventure. It's exciting.
I love that, the unknown. And, it's interesting when you talk about that. I think about the adventures you've taken and the routes and the roads you've taken. And often they've taken you to the unknown, but it's that adventure mindset that you've got that allow you to just keep going and plugging away, not have the sense of humour failure. You're talking about those days where you were on that track that just felt like it went forever in Scotland up and down, or, Google Maps sends you down this horrendous path through the Alps. That's part of the unknown as well, but just that will of exploring an adventure that brings it within it. It's energizing, isn't it?
Yeah, all these different elements combine that make such a colourful adventure. Yeah, that's what I really love about it.
I love your answer. And listeners, I love all the guest answers so far. Each one has its own unique personal take on it. And it's just been beautiful to hear their responses. Ceri Belshaw, what an absolute pleasure it's been. It has been a whirlwind of a trip. Time has absolutely flown. And I'm energized to go and explore Wales.
I've not. Yeah, please do. Please, come stay. I'll show you around.
And see some of these gravel rides you've talked about. But also, I just love the journey that you've been on, and there's elements of you that have stayed constant throughout it, and elements of you which I imagine have grown. The elements that are energized by being in the outdoors is what inspires you to keep taking these trips. The fact that you allow yourself to take the time off the bike to chase butterflies for 2 hours in the grass and feel that creative urge in your photography as well, to being able to laugh at moments of hilarity of eating coffee with a side of tuna or, singing to a herd of Highland coos, to the beautiful moments that you have sharing with your best friend there in Morocco. Bike adventures have enriched your life so much. It has been such an absolute pleasure to hear your stories and share them here on the pod, because I know that they will inspire others to take an adventure as well. All is to say, Ceri Belshaw, thank you so, so much for sharing your stories and experiences here on the podcast for Seek Travel Ride.
Thank you for having me, Bella. It's been an honour. Thank you.
Listeners, I absolutely loved listening to Ceri share her story there, and I love what she's creating with her Gravel Rides Wales book. I cannot wait to see the routes that she comes up with. I especially just loved knowing how bikepacking and off-road riding has really filled her cup. And I love the little anecdote she shared about, why she loves bivvying out in the wild and taking the time to just take in her surroundings and be so thankful of the places that her bike has taken her. She also mentioned there's something which a few guests have talked about before, and it is that immense satisfaction of bringing things down to basic and knowing that every single thing you need with you for the next few days is with you on your bike. You've got your shelter, you've got your food, and you've got your water and mode of transport, and it's just you out in nature on a bike adventure. Thanks so much, Ceri. What an absolute awesome time it was to share your story and hear your insights as well. And listeners, if you love listening to the podcast and you want to help this independent podcaster out, you can do so by buying me a coffee. All these virtual brews go towards putting the podcast together. Simply head to buymeacoffee.com/Seek Travel Ride. Buy me a coffee, but most importantly, let me know what is it you love about the podcast and what bike adventures has it inspired you to take. And until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening.